everyone. This is the video I promised you yesterday on the Applique for Kids Rosebud Overlay. Now first off, I print off the view of the overlay, and this is what it is. This is what it looks like. And this is what you use. This is what I use to figure out my fabric piece. So I know I want a fabric piece. It's gonna have to fit right at the bottom on this line, and then I need enough to cover it up to the top here. So I have my piece of piqué. This is white piqué. It's been starched and ironed. Nothing on the back of it. I lay it right with the bottom piece on my stitch outline, and you can tell that there's enough here to cover the top of this design. So then I move that out of the way. I bring over my hoop. Today I'm using a 9.5 by 9.5 hoop, and I'm making the small overlay. So I'm going to take this and I go ahead and you use one layer of wash away stabilizer, and this is a wash away stabilizer by Floriani, and you hoop that, and then I'm going to move over to the machine and stitch out the placement line. Okay, here we are at the machine. I've already downloaded and put into the machine the design that I want and pulled it up. And now I have put my frame on, and it is going to, I'm going to turn it on, and it's going to sew out the placement line for you here. Okay, now we're going to remove the frame, the hoop from the machine, and we're going to take it back to my table. I'm going to place the fabric on it, and I'll show you that. Okay, now we're back to the cutting table, and I have the hoop and the placement line, as you can see here, and we're going to put the fabric on it. But first, I know a lot of you don't like to use it because it messes up your hoops, but I use 505 spray, and I'm just going to give it a quick little spray like that. And then I'm going to, my videographer just suffocated when she had to smell the spray. And you're going to lay your fabric, the bottom edge of your fabric, right on that line. And then you're going to, I just kind of press it down, and it's stuck. Now we're going to take it back to the machine, and we're going to sew out our design. Okay, we're back at the machine, and I'm going to sew the next step out and show you how that goes. Okay, now you can see that it's sewn out the first tack down line. So what we're going to do now is take the hoop off the machine, and we're going to go carefully cut the fabric off around, trim it off real close to those blue lines, so that then we can do our satin stitch and the edge will be finished. Okay, I prefer these scissors. These are a bent applique scissors that you can, when they run, when your hand is bent, as you can see, and they'll run right along the edge of this, and I'm going to show you. Now over here, I cut in. You cut in just to where this starts, and you leave this fabric at the top, okay? And then you're going to take this, and you're going to trim it really, really close. And if you even trim those blue stitches a little bit, it's okay. But we're going to get as close to it as we possibly can, because if you don't, once the satin stitch is sewn down, you'll have little whiskers sticking out, and we don't want any whiskers on it.
It's not a cat.
So we want to get it really, really close here. You just lift it up, the spray. You can lift it up from that spray. It's still tacky, but you can lift it up. You trim it all the way around. Just as close as you can possibly get it there to those stitches. And then we're going to trim it straight off over here so that we have a little flap up at the top of this. Looks like it had little dog ears sticking up here out to the side. Okay, now we're going to take this back to the machine and it'll do its satin stitch to finish that edge. Right now the machine is just doing a straight stitch around the outside edge and the inside edge of this zigzag stitch, the tack down stitch, and then it will start doing its satin stitch. This is just to give it extra stability. Here you can see that the satin stitch is working now, and it's just about halfway around, and I didn't want to film the whole thing because it's kind of pretty boring to sit there and just watch it. It takes about 5 minutes for it to do this satin stitch. So we'll come back when it's finished and I'll show you the next step. Now we're moving on to the next step, and this is I've changed my thread color and we're going to do the little vine thing, and I'll show you how that goes. As you can see, the vine on the little overlay has sewn out really pretty, and now we're going to add the leaves, and then we'll sew out the little flowers, the center of the flowers and the little flowers. This whole overlay on the machine is 11 minutes. Then you add maybe, 5 minutes for trimming it, and so it doesn't take very long to make one of these to just really spiff up a little dress. Alright, the leaves have finished, as you can see, and now we're going to sew out the center of the flowers and then the flowers themselves, and it will be finished. Here is the finished overlay. All the stitching is done, and now we'll remove the hoop from the machine and take it back to the cutting table, and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, here we're back at the cutting table, and I'm going to show you how I trim this stabilizer away from the design. I very carefully, and I try to go up as close to it as I possibly can, because that way you don't have so much to wash out when you're finished. But we just trim it out like this around the edge without getting too close to your stitching. You don't have to even do it as close as I do it, but I've done this enough times that this is what I like to do. So then, I know I'm kind of flipping and flopping here. I reach under here and I loosen up the collar from the tackiness of the stabilizer so that we can cut the stabilizer off of the back of this. So I turn it, I flip it over, take my scissors, I go like just around this way. You don't even really have to use them, they just kind of slide right through here and cut the stabilizer. And I know I use really big scissors compared to most people, but these are my favorite ones. And there we have, there's only around where the stitching is the stabilizers left. Then I also go back and I trim the little stitches back here, the little stitches that are the threads that are sticking up back here, because we don't want those on there in the end, and right now it's easier to cut them before they get wet. And so we just clip, and this is our finished collar before it is soaked. Now I would take this to the faucet, and under really hot water I would hold it and I would start rinsing this and rubbing this off of it. And once I've gotten it pretty much off like that, I use a little plastic tub that I got at the dollar store, and I run it, enough water in it, hot water in it to soak this in, and I leave this soaking there overnight. And then the next morning I get up and I rinse it out with cold water, and I usually roll it in a towel, kind of wring it really good to get all the water out, and then I let it air dry until it's almost dry, and then I iron it with a good hot iron. And I always iron it from the bottom side so that and have this laying on something that's padded so that your stitches sink down in there, but iron it until it's dry, completely dry. And this is your finished product. This one I took out of the water this morning and ironed it, and as you can see, there's nothing on the back of it, and that would be the back of your overlay. And you can see how nice it comes out, and it's just been starched and ironed, and there's no wrinkles, no puckers, nothing in it. Here's the final overlay, and I have laid it out on a pattern that I've drawn out so that you could see. I'm going to use, this is a Louise, and it's going to be a size 2, and this is the bodice. I'm going to turn the phone around so that you can see. That's how it will look when it lays on there. And you can see I've drawn it out. I was going to put it a little farther down, then I decided not to, so I moved it up some. You can play with it, move it around wherever you want to on your pattern, and then you just cut it out. And when you sew the shoulder seams together, it will be included in that seam. Now this is one's going to be on the Children's Corner Louise pattern, a little dress, a size 2, for my 3-year-old granddaughter. And this one is going to be on the Bobby, a completely different thing. And this is the yoke part of the top of the bubble, and it's going to be on a size 24 month for my 2-year-old granddaughter. They'll have matching outfits, and this is the fabric that they'll be on. This is the fabric with the collar that I chose. As you can see, the flowers and the little vines, I try to match the thread. That's why yesterday when I made one, I had a really brighter color thread and I didn't really like it. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it helps you to make a lot of overlays, because Joy has some really cute ones and one for every occasion. So go to Applique for Kids to find this overlay, and we'll see you again soon.